Technological innovation has always been followed by a combination of excitement and fear. How will it change our lives? From AI assistants in smartphones to driverless vehicles, our daily lives are now infused with AI. How will our lives evolve with continued advances in AI? Is the fear that AI may one day rebel against humans overhyped? On the other hand, can AI and humans solve our most difficult challenges together? I was pleased to be joined by Dr. Geoff Mulgan, Chief Executive of Nesta, a UK-based innovation foundation that is active in research, investment and practical innovation. He is also the author of the book, Big Mind, How Collective Intelligence Can Change Our World. I started by asking him, what is collective intelligence?
In the world at the moment, there is huge excitement around artificial intelligence. Hundreds of millions, billions of dollars and yuan being invested in new machines. My concern is that if we only invest in machine intelligence, we may end up with stupid systems. We have collective stupidity sometimes. And we need to find new ways of harnessing the intelligence of large populations, of helping people to learn how to manage their health or their education or solve the big problems.
What's the difference, allow me, what's the difference between your notion of collective intelligence versus what already has been the practice in human society for thousands of years, right? Tradition has been built on by people in generations after generations. You mentioned the example of the dictionary, which took 20 years, right? And many people contributed to it. What makes it different now?
Well, in a way, as you say, all of human civilization at its best is mobilizing collective intelligence, embodying it in knowledge which can be passed on, and things like dictionaries. What's different now is really we have technologies which make it much easier to organize collective intelligence, mainly internet technologies where millions of people can come together to solve problems, to observe the state of the air or the state of birds in nature, and so on. And this allows us to organize the brain of millions, billions of people in a way which no past generation could do. And I worry we're not doing enough on that. We're investing a huge amount in computing and machines, but only a tiny fraction of that is going into better ways of organizing collective intelligence.
Is that why you are suggesting maybe a new profession is needed, which is intelligence planning or intelligence design? Elaborate a little bit what has to be done, for instance, from the part of government, of decision makers and the academia, for instance.
Well, a really good example of this is smart cities. China's been right at the forefront of smart cities for many years. You now have the City Brain project initiated by Alibaba in Guangzhou and elsewhere. These projects have all been led by engineers, very clever engineers, coming up with new ways of managing flows of traffic or energy and so on. But on its own, that's not enough. And if you really want a city to be smart, to make the most of the brains of millions of people in it, you need to combine the engineering perspective on how to get flows of bits, etc., with human intelligence to understand how cities will actually be livable places, places people will like being in or solving problems. And we're missing a profession for doing that. We have fantastic professions of product design. We have fantastic engineers who can design computers and chips, but we have no profession at all for harnessing these together to create true intelligence, recognizable intelligence in health, educational cities.
What's the difference between what you're talking about and the big data that we are having in a way? Are you talking about people who are able to analyze these big data and put it in application to improve our collective intelligence?
That's definitely one part of it. So, for example, we are working with the United Nations around the world on applying collective intelligence to big problems of the Sustainable Development Goals. Let's say jobs, problems of unemployment or underemployment. Now, we're hugely helped by big data. The fact that you can now analyze millions of job advertisements, see what skills are being asked for, what the pay levels are. But if you don't then link that up to human beings making judgments, people who really understand, let's say, construction or coding or teaching, you don't get the full value out of that. So in all of these fields, it's the combination of the data with human beings which gives the big benefits. And if you only have big data, one of the things we found in the past in the financial services industries, for example, you can see organizations making stupid mistakes because they're too fixated on the technology and the data, not on judgment and wisdom.
Yeah. Well, how does that help us as individuals to become more intelligent, to become wiser, let's say, maybe that's the proper word? Is there a link there? Because I feel at the end of the day, human beings are not progressing, are not evolving as fast as machines. The structures in our brain is not much different. Actually, our brains, according to some, are smaller probably than our Homo sapien ancestors.
Well, we definitely need to accelerate our capacity to be wise and make judgments. And interestingly, artificial intelligence is forcing that. The more we have AI in our phones, in our companies, all around us, the more we need good judgment. Partly that's because when things go wrong, we find people don't know why they're going wrong because it's buried in layers of code in the AI. We're seeing new problems of bias in the AI, which again need human wisdom to spot the bias and put it right. And we need that capacity to know when the signals from the data are misleading and confusing.
Are we getting better at that?
Not at all.
Not at all.
And
So
that's
what has to be done here?
Well, I think this is one of the things I argue for in the book, is a shift of perspective, so that we complement the huge energy, the huge brain power going into the machines, the machine intelligence, with more attention to the human element, to judgment and wisdom, and the combination of the two. So you have humans supervising the machines, just as we probably need more machines sometimes supervising us as humans, because we can make stupid mistakes as well. And it's really a new framework. That's why we use this formula AI plus CI, collective intelligence plus artificial intelligence. If we only have the AI, we may end up with more collective stupidity, not less.
You cited an example in your lecture and in your book of Wikimedia, for instance, where citizens kind of have their own input in shaping the way how information is disseminated and even conceived. And yet, I want to ask this question: when everybody is a journalist or when everybody is a contributor, where's that quality control? Where's that editor? In this collective intelligence, do we need such a link there?
Well, this is a very live argument in the West. We've had a huge problem of fake news, bad information being spread by networks like Facebook. So one response which Facebook has done is to employ tens of thousands of human beings to supervise the algorithms to make sure they're not spreading the fake news. So that's quite a good example of CI plus AI. We're also seeing the emergence of lots of new technology tools to help people make sense of stories, to be able to spot a story which is probably fake through analysing its structure. We're looking, as with things like Wikipedia, of moving beyond just saying anyone can be a journalist, anyone can feed anything in, to structures of judgment and reputation, so people who've proven that they are good as editors, good at making judgments, are given more weight than the people who turn out to circulate fake news. And we're moving beyond, I think, a simplistic view of the wisdom of crowds, that anything goes, to realizing everything which really matters, especially around truth, requires careful design, careful orchestration. And again, this is why intelligence design matters as a profession, which helps us get the benefit of millions of perhaps people generating new knowledge, but also can structure it so it's actually useful to us. Looking
ahead, how do you see AI and CI impacting the way how we're developing, the way how societies are going to be developed? Any visions that you're seeing?
Well, my
huge question, I know.
my fear is that AI will repeat some of what's gone wrong with past waves of digital technology. My past is in digital. I'm a technology enthusiast.
For instance, what are one of the pitfalls that AI could lead us into?
Well, usually we see these hype cycles around things like smart cities and e-government, and usually they are over-promise, they under-deliver. There's then a downturn and people are very disappointed and frustrated, and then there's a pick-up again and they become part of daily life. I think we'll have the same with AI. What I'm trying to help is to speed up the process of getting to the right mix of AI plus human intelligence. And the really exciting thing we're doing with the UN and the European Union as well, is to try and kickstart this by looking at the most intensive problems facing societies, like isolation of the elderly, for example, or cutting carbon emissions to help with climate change. And at the level of the city or the neighbourhood or the region, working very intensively to combine the best of the technology and data and sensors and AI algorithms, but with the human input to design the ways we solve the problems together. And I think if we can move to that different model of intelligence, we can actually solve the problems of the 21st century. We're very lucky. We have the tools at our disposal. We have highly educated people whose brains are not yet being used to solve problems.